PJ Net Live, 9 p.m. here on the East Coast for our live audience. We have a bumper rolling. We have a beach background. We have a special guest, Rachael Colby, standing by in our green room. Cameras are ready. Bumper rolling. Let's go to Studio 6 in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Welcome to PJ Net Live on this Tuesday night, 9 o'clock, here on the eastern coast of the United States. If you are joining us live in our PatriotJournalist.com chat room, if you are joining us live on Facebook, if you are joining us live on Twitter, if you are joining us live on YouTube, wherever you may be seeing this, or maybe you're watching the recorded version of it. Either way, and every way, we are so grateful that you have taken some of your time out during this holiday season. We call it Christmas. Others call it Hanukkah. And it has many names, but it is a holiday season regardless of your faith, and it is a time for all of us to be thankful and to be happy and be optimistic. And I can't think of a better way to bring that about than to bring on board our special guest this evening, Rachael Colby, who is coming to you with a title, A Tsunami in the Background About to Crash Through Her Window. So, but you won't get wet. You will not get wet. Rachael, glad to have you back. You are an outstanding, you are the bearer of the torch. Okay, you are the soldier of the cross. You are the champion of the faith. You are the child of God. I like you. You're great. Hey, how long has it been since we were on the air last time?
I think we were on in September, the beginning of September, I believe.
Gosh, been that long. You don't have any gray hair or anything after that last experience. I'm reading some stuff in the chat room. Excuse me. I have so much going on. Have to get back to that one.
Gray hairs from being on the show? Is that gray hairs from being on the show or gray hairs from you?
Okay. Some hair turns gray, some turns loose, but I still, hey, at 62, I look pretty good. That's what they all tell me. And, but I'm really not 62. That's what. Okay. Rachael, you have been very busy. Well, I presume you have, because I keep seeing your name in the spotlight. For example, I recently attended the Ohio Christian Writers Contest, and Sunbelt Girl was there also. And they have the awards ceremony, and it seems like every time they have an awards ceremony, your name keeps coming up. Are you just lucky, or what is it about getting these awards? Is that reserved for only the very, very best of writers, or is somebody out there that's a writer that's never been in a contest, should they enter?
I entered my first test 3 years ago, and didn't win, and that was when I just started writing. And then I didn't enter any other contests until this year. And I failed the first one, and it's several submissions. I think I'm up to about 21 submissions between articles and contests. And so, anyway, but you can't win if you don't enter, and you can't become a better writer unless you hone your craft and push yourself, and that's a way to push yourself.
Well, and it's also one way to evaluate yourself, because how well you think of your writing doesn't matter as much as how well others might think of your writing.
Right. Well, it's communication for sure. But I will say the one before this, the North Carolina Christian Writers Conference, I told God, like I said last time, that I wasn't entering any more contests if I didn't win something.
Okay, so you're telling God that
you're
telling God the program now. How'd that work out?
Well, it was just the throwing money out there, and the rejection, and the failure and the failure and the failure, but it's like, okay, one more time. I just feel I need to do this one more time, but God, really, please help. And this time I actually did not think I was going to win anything, particularly in the piece that won first prize. I was afraid they wouldn't read past the first sentence, because it started out at over 2,400 words, and I had to get it down to 1,500, which is really difficult.
Now, how many pages is
And
that? If in a typical Word document, how many pages is 2,400 words or 1,500, whatever you said?
1,500. Say 1,500 is about 3 pages.
So pages roughly 500 words. Would you say somewhere in there?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I know when
So,
I was so glad when word processors came along. Because you would get this assignment to do a 3-page such and such. So I just keep increasing the font, until it, made 3 pages. It was 20. But back in those days, now let me tell you something. Now, today, have you seen, now, I don't have any handy, they've got these highlighters of all these cool colors. They got the yellow ones, and they got the pink ones and the peach ones. And I like those so much better than the black ones I used in college before I flunked out.
I love highlighters.
Yeah,
All my things are highlighted. It's a million colors and written all over, and my kids hate it.
Well, don't some people kind of go overboard with highlighters? Because if you highlight everything, then nothing's highlighted in effect, right?
That's kind of how some of my books look, because that's how I read. I read with a pen and a highlighter.
Hmm.
So you may not want to read my books when I'm done with them.
There was a day when I had Outlook email, and people would. There was one particular person. Every email that they sent was tagged important. Well, if everything's important, then nothing's important. And believe me, this guy had nothing important to say, but he felt it was very important. Anyway, seriously, Rachael, you have done well in getting awards, partly because, well, obviously your writing, passes the test, but part of it is also you do invest in that, you do participate. Why?
Why? Because, well, for several reasons. I felt that I should. I felt it's what God wanted me to do. Um, Agents, publishers, they want to see that you're doing something, you're building your platform, and that your work is getting out there and how it's being received. So that's one way to do that. Um, there's a myriad of reasons. It pushes you. It's a deadline if there's a contest, and it pushes you to really work at it. In the case of the one that won, Welcome to My Dysfunction, that won first prize in the short nonfiction this time, it was down to, I submitted it 20 minutes before the deadline and just barely did it, but I didn't think I was going to be able to get down to that many, few words. But I just decided that it was a good writing exercise and it would be good for me. And I was just going until I could any more. And well, there you go. So, and even though after applying all the writing rules and doing the word count, then I broke all the writing rules, which is why I didn't or even gonna pass the first couple sentences since I walked in breaking rules. So
There you go.
but
Folks, for those of you who are watching this, you're probably noticing the audio is a little bit broken up. And I assure you that Rachael and I have been in the green room for 20 minutes just chatting away, talking about all the things you're hearing right now. And there was never any compromise of the audio during that entire time. So maybe we shouldn't do that. Maybe we should just wing it. I don't know. You've talked about some reasons that you should enter, reasons that you've entered. What are some of the reasons you think people that should enter and might win? What do you think some of the reasons are that they don't enter?
they don't think they're good enough. They are afraid money may be tight, and they may think they're throwing their money away, but it's an investment. You need to look at it
How
as
much
an
is it?
investment like you would in a business.
How much is it?
Um, the writing contests can be anywhere from free to $50, $60 to enter. In the case of the ones I entered, they were one was 35. The four awards I got, those were $20 each.
Mm-hmm.
So if you look at it as if you had a business and you needed advertising, that would be really inexpensive advertising. And so it's worth investing. If this is your call, this is what you're supposed to do, then you're gonna have to put a little bit down sometimes, right?
I
So
wonder.
and
Okay, you know, and I'm not in your world, but I am familiar with competition. In any sport, if you play the game, you can watch the game film afterwards. You can tell, you can look at the scoreboard. You can tell how much you lost by, and you can look at the game film, and you can start seeing things that contributed to that. Probably not the case with entering and not winning I don't know if that's called losing or not, but let's say you entered and didn't win. Is there any opportunity to play the game film in your industry like that?
well, you always run it by somebody who's ahead of you in writing, and which you've done before you submitted it anyway to get their opinion. Um, and it depends on the contest. Some contests do feedback, or you can strict to get feedback on your piece, whether you win or
Really?
not. So that may be something into it if you want feedback. At the end of the day, you just keep honing your craft. I mean, a certain amount of subjectivity to it, and sometimes I'm sure there's several excellent pieces. They've got to choose one. So in that, you also have to pay attention to the little things like making sure you follow directions to a T, and make sure there is as much as is possible, which hopefully that's 100% possible, is that there's zero errors in what you submit, because if it comes down to it and they're trying to choose, they're trying to whittle it down. You don't want to call attention to yourself for something that could have been easily avoided.
Reading some stuff in the chat room, Tammy from Georgia, says, I have to say that I knew Rachel and I had a connection because I read with a pen and a highlighter, and I highlight it almost. Highlight it all almost. I think laugh out loud, but the act of highlighting helps me let the content sink in. Now, all right, let me put on my professor hat because I do have a major in psychology from the People's Republic of Florida State University, the Berkeley of the South. When you're trying to learn something, it is best to engage multiple senses. It's called multi-sensory perception. For example, on the written word, you have a visual impression of the communication. If you read it if you read it aloud is what I meant to say. Now you have engaged so much more. So in the military, when they're putting stuff up there that you're reading it, they're literally pumping it through the loudspeakers because now you hear it. But if you read it yourself, you're moving your muscles, okay? And then if you highlight it or write notes, that's called the kinesthetic sense. It's not one of the five major senses that we all know. But I wonder if highlighting does contribute to higher comprehension. Might.
I think it does. Plus, it makes it easier to go back and find where it was that caught your attention. And you brought up reading, using your senses. As a writer, one of the things that's very important is to read word aloud, because you catch mistakes that you don't catch otherwise. At least I do, and I've heard other writers say that. And you hear the cadence. You hear if it's even when it's not poetry, you hear when it's missing a beat or it doesn't sound quite right. The word doesn't fit right there. There would be a word that would flow better.
Flow.
So that's That's one way to I think really improve your writing is read out loud.
All right. In the 4.5 minutes that we have left, you in your blog, I read it with some interest because I have engaged in apologetics, but your blog talks about in our going forward with the gospel, making disciples, sharing the gospel. This is not a contest where there's a winner and there's a loser and you beat the other person into submission. Is that kind of the general message in your blog?
Yes, you're trying to win hearts and souls because it's not enough to have an intellectual knowledge of the gospel and of God. You need a heart knowledge, and you need to treat people as individuals, as people, when you're trying to reach them and know where they're coming from. It starts with listening to them so you can reach them where they're at.
Well, I find this hard because I know I'm right and I know they're wrong. And apologetics is an interesting art form that is pretty contemporary. And I'm fascinated with apologetics because it's rooted in, of course, logic. It's rooted in debate. It's rooted in this contest. You're competing ideas, and one has to prevail. So you have to extort the merit of your belief, and then you have to debunk, the talking points of the other side. I love apologetics, but you know what, Rachel? When I get to heaven,
Yes.
I am not expecting to see legions of those who lost an apologetic debate with me. Is apologetics really worthwhile?
Bible says to be ready always to give an answer for anyone who asks about truth. And it's a study to show yourself approved. So, yes, I believe it is. But having said that, someone doesn't, no one comes to Jesus unless the Father draws them. And it's the Holy Spirit that does the work in the end, part to play. And so
I like the
get to work.
part in your blog you went into that Jesus was engaged on multiple occasions with people in his ministry, but in many cases he was being asked questions, and his answer was
a question.
another
Questioning the
question.
questioner, which is the name of my post. So
Yeah.
questioning the questioner. I find people much more open if they I'll try and get them to ask me a question so that I can answer them. I find them more open that way when I'm responding to what they've said. And then that opens the door to ask them more questions so I can know where they're coming from and show interest in their life and learn. My son is doing one of the courses with Rabbi Zacharias, the core module, and he had to interview two people, and the point was not to tell them what he believed. It was just to listen and to hear where they were coming from so that he would learn how to listen. And he interviewed one of my friends that's been friends for a long time, and I wanted to cry because I learned so much from the questions he asked her and just listening to her answer or her not being able to answer. And I'm looking forward to God using that for more conversations between us. So
I've actually met Ravi Zacharias. It was atop the Capitol building on the very top floor of the Florida Capitol building, and it was a group of about 20 of us. So we actually got a chance to kind of converse with him. But I've certainly watched a lot of his YouTube videos, and a recurring theme I see with Ravi is when he's asked a question, he repeats the question kind of back to them. He's not asking a question, but he's doing a couple things there. One, he's affirming that I'm listening, or that he's listening. And he's also making sure that he clarifies that the question being asked is the question that he's answering. So he's already starting the debate by saying, in other words, if I understand you correctly, you say, and you get them to dig in, because if they dig in, you got them. Okay, they can't move, and there's all kind of techniques that you can use in debate. But I noticed, or my take on the situations where Jesus was asked a question, in many cases, and see, Jesus knew this, In many cases, these weren't sincere questions at all. They were an attempt to ensnare Jesus in an answer that no matter how it went, he would become unpopular with somebody. Wrap it up in 1 minute because we got Del Didway next. I'm sorry.
That is true. Jesus did that. He also addressed the actual need, because people often try to deflect the tension from themselves, rather than, so they don't have to face where they're at. And so that's one of the reasons you need to listen to the heart of the questioner, not just what they say with their lips, but the meaning behind what they're saying.
Well, in wrapping it up, I would say, Rachel, having read your blog and I really enjoyed it. By the way, I'm gonna put your website up here as I kind of wind it down. The thing that is so different about debating and apologetics and sharing and evangelism, the thing that is different in that context is that we're not just trying to win a soul, we're trying to win a friend and a companion. We want them to be in the family. So it's certainly not a game like football where you are trying to defeat an opponent. We are reaching out to people to share good news with them. So it takes a little bit different tack. It takes on a spiritual connotation when you consider what's at stake. And Rachel, you have done a great job of illustrating those points so well in your recent blog, and I just thank you, for sharing that. And I thank you for sharing, your thoughts tonight. It's kind of fun too.
Check out Rhythm Connect and what they have to offer to equip Christians to engage a culture they live in and win people for Jesus. They've got a lot to offer, and already it's benefited my writing, putting my stuff out there with them and reading and getting feedback from people there also.
Well, Rachel, I appreciate you, sharing with us. I appreciate you being with us, being part of it, not just when you're in the spotlight, but in the chat room and the encouragement and the messages that you send me. And I bet you do that for others too. But you're an encourager, and you're strong, and your writing is right on track. After all, it's award-winning. We're lucky to have you here. Appreciate you showing up tonight.
Thanks for having me, Coach. God bless you and all of you, Pete. I appreciate you.
Oh, you're so good. Oh, folks, gosh, how fast can 20 minutes go? We're at 23. I have got to rapidly and immediately tear down this studio and make way. Hey, you think that was good? That was. And it's just going to keep going and going and going, because Del Didway is up next in just a few moments as PJNet Live continues.